Bishop. This is the Shiloh Institute, the real spiel. About to tell the truth. Listen, I had a fantastic weekend. Went to preach for my friend Bishop Melvin Cross. Came back to work this morning. Deal with, as many know, I'm an educator, and the marginalized neighborhoods of Toronto, aka Jane and French, predominantly dealing with special ed kids who are hard to deal with. Black kids, black boys, that's my thing, that's my specialty. And I had a story that I was telling them that reminded me of some things from this weekend, because I met up with my Hebrew Israelite brothers, the Purple and Gold, in Buffalo, New York, on Bailey Avenue on Saturday afternoon. They had set up, to evangelize the public, the community, doing their thing. And, so met a couple of brothers, had some conversations with them. Let me break it down and tell you what happened. Okay, I want to tell you what happened. I got to tell you what happened, because I was talking to my brothers. and tell you what happened. So, they don't know who you are. They come, you come up. One brother, very nice man. I'm going to get his name in a minute. I had his name organized, but it just slipped my mind. But I have his information. He stopped us while we were driving, rolled the window down. He's like, come back, check us out. I said, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go to United Men's Fashion on Bailey. And I'm going to come back and we're going to talk. So I went to United Men's, got myself a nice hat, and came back down to speak to my brothers. And listen, I started to listen, they went into their thing, and, they asked, he goes, are you Israelite brothers? And me and my deacon are with me, and 4 young ladies from our church. And they're like, oh, he's a bishop. And they're like, oh, they're telling me you're a bishop. And, and they're speaking to one of the ladies in Hebrew. We take Hebrew. She's like, oh, he taught me the Hebrew. And he's like, Hebrew? I go, yes, brother, we are Hebrew, right? We are Hebrew. We start to talk. So they start to go into their thing. And I'm gonna lead with this, but it's not really my point. I did not know that the American Hebrew Israelite movement considers Gentiles, when spoken of in the Bible, and proselytes, when spoken of in the Bible, they consider those individuals to be only referring to the 10 tribes. Did not know that. That's wrong. That's completely wrong. But I did not know that's where they were going with that particular argument. That's an incorrect statement. But I can come back to that later. But that's something I did not know that was part of their dogma. It's very interesting. But I think I'm going to spend a few videos talking about my interaction with them and break some things down. So number one, extremely hospitable brothers. I want to be very clear about that. They're very hospitable. They do have their presentation style, and all Hebrew Israelite brothers from the Purple and Gold, of course, are not the same. I found them to be, they're very dogmatic in what they believe, and they're very forthright in what they believe. But the utmost respect was maintained, and they did their thing, and I asked questions, and I countered some of their questions. So I want to get into some of them. So one brother was talking, and he was identifying how Christianity had, amended the following of what I was calling. They were saying Jews, and I was trying to correct them. I was saying, it's not Jews, brother. You're calling yourself Hebrew Israelites. You understand the term should be either Hebrew or Israelites. But amended Judaism, as he said, the Mosaic faith, as I had tried to present it, and said that there was not supposed to be effectively anything that was different from the Mosaic faith, but a Christianity, as he put it properly, said, we are all supposed to be Christians, what he said, because Christianity is supposed to be the following of Christ, of the anointed one. and we are all supposed to follow that, but they amended it and made it something else. So he was going, and I said, my brother, the one thing though that I'm identifying by your pictures is that you're making a large reference to Western Christianity. And I tried to get into the conversation with him about Western Christianity. Immediately upon starting the conversation about Western Christianity, another brother took the mic from him. Clear that between the both of them, this one might be the more seasoned teacher, and might have more reference sources in respect to Western Christianity. At least I think that's what he felt at the time, and I think that's why he took over. And it's clear that he was the man running the show at the time. So he went into the conversation with me, and this brother, by appearances, was a Caucasian brother. By appearances, he seemed to be white. I didn't ask him his ethnicity. He had a kind of a reddish tinge on his beard. I would assume he's Caucasian, maybe of Irish, Scottish background, potentially has some Latino in him, I don't know. Potentially is mixed between black and another ethnicity, I don't know. Right? But by visuality only, without asking a question, because I wasn't trying to get into the brother's ethnic business, because he was representing an Afro-Semitic faith, which I tried to remind them. But he came into his thing, and he started to talk, and he started to do his thing, pulling out the Book of Romans, and they did what they do. But this is the thing that I want to empower the Hebrew Israelite with. And if they're going to check me out, I gave them all my information. I was hoping that they check out a couple of my videos. This one is for them. It is very important that you understand two things about your doctrine. Two things. Number one, the Bible that you're reading and quoting was written by middle century, middle-aged European English people. Most of them are using a King James Bible. That means that Bible was translated anywhere between the 1500s to the 17th century. The Bible was translated from the Latin Vulgate. So you have a Latin Bible translated into English. That's what you're reading. So when you attack white people from the Middle Ages, it's kind of disingenuous to also use their translation at the same time. That's part one. Second part for me is when you start dealing with Christianity, stop starting 1600 years after Christianity to understand Christianity properly. And you have to always understand something that you're trying to argue against. You have to understand it well. You have to go back to 200 AD and what took place in 200 AD, and then follow up what took place in 325, then what took place in 381, then what took place in 451, and these are the first few councils. You have to understand that well, very well, before you can challenge Orthodox Christianity. And then you have to understand that Orthodox Christianity was a very Afro-Semitic faith. Other than Western Christianity, which is just Rome. And then number three, and I'm getting into these points in detail, but I'm just trying to, brother, I was trying to explain to him that Ani medaber Ivrit, I speak Hebrew. And he's like, oh, if I gave you a Hebrew Bible, could you read it? I said, yeah, bring it out. I'll read it for you. So he shook that off. And then he says, oh, well, where'd you learn your Hebrew from? I said, I have a teacher, a mentor, Dr. David Israel, in Israel. He says, part of Damona? I go, yeah, he's part of Damona. And then he said, oh, you know, you're speaking, what's the word? I want to use, where's the word he used? Basically, he's saying I'm speaking Yiddish. That's what the word he said, Yiddish. I said, brother, I'm not speaking Yiddish. There is still original Hebrew. Oh, original Hebrew doesn't exist. Original Hebrew doesn't exist anymore. Brother, you cannot call yourself a Hebrew Israelite and yet not believe that there's still the Hebrew language. And if you still want to fight and say the Hebrew language doesn't exist anymore, then you have to say also there's no real Arabic, because that's a Shemitic language too. There's no real Aramaic, because that's a Shemitic language too. What you have to identify is that there is a group of people who are trying to control the language, the Ashkenazi. They are trying to change the language. Modern Hebrew is not biblical Hebrew. And I asked them a question that they did not answer to this moment. Is there such a thing as biblical Hebrew? Is there such a thing as biblical Hebrew? They couldn't answer that question, of course, right? So there's some things that they need to work on in the fullness of coming into the understanding of what Yahweh wants them to understand. Because I truly believe that these brothers want to understand the truth. I don't think these guys are able to be so fervent for their cause, to show up anywhere in America, you know, to be so obedient to their leadership, which is admirable, and not want the truth. We want you to have it, bro. I want these men to have it. I want these men to have the truth. These are young guys too. I'm an old man, right? These are young cats, right? Comparatively, you know, some of them might have been, the oldest guy out there might have been in his 40s, maybe. But they're young cats, and I want them to get the truth. But please, please, get the truth. And if you need to get it from me, come, I'll give it to you. If you need to get it from Dr. Israel, we'll give it to you. Because you need to understand the Bible you're reading is in English, mistranslated in some parts, not all. Nothing that's critical to the faith, but things that are critical to your understanding. You need to understand that if you're going to criticize Christianity, you can't start in Western Christianity. You need to understand what Calvinism is. I explained to him as he was saying, Christians said that everybody, he asked me the question, he says, who's going to be saved? Is everybody going to be saved, or just a few people going to be saved? I said, the elect will be saved. And he says, who's the elect? And I said, are you a Calvinist? It depends. It depends. I said, you are relying on a Calvinistic perspective, and you effectively are an Arminianist that has an argument in Calvinism. He didn't know what the heck I was talking about. You cannot come for Christians and not understand the spectrum of their soteriology. You can't do that, young man. So this is the thing, you know, and of course they have their pet issues, which a lot of, they said, oh, the women that you got with you are not wearing, they're wearing pants. I'm about to say, yeah, you're right. We apostolic. They ain't supposed to be out here in pants. I'm about to say, I agree, brother. I told them they ain't supposed to be out here in pants. But I don't have a dress budget for these women. I don't have a dress budget for them. They're on a church trip. They want to be out here in short, in their leggings. They know they're apostolic. So the girls disappeared fast after that. But they, of course, are going to try to come for you in the areas that they're able to come for you. I was very polite because I love people. I love the fact that these brothers, when it's time for them to show out and show up, they do so. I criticize the church that they're not able to captivate the imaginations and the militancy and the fervor of black men in America. The church can't do that anymore. And we've lost our capacity to engage these men. And we need to sit down and study under Bishop Nathaniel and say, how are you getting these men to be so effective for the cause of Christ and their faith. We need to learn that. The church needs to have a conversation with that man. You know, I heard he went to Kenya, and apparently there was some uprising in Kenya after he said that Jesus was black and not white, and they threw rocks at him and stuff like that. So, but these are old conversations. I remember that one of the last things they said, and forgive me, I don't know your marching orders, but it said, who is the Lord? I think they said, and they said Christ. What is he? Black, 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 black. You know, they sounded off, and it was impressive. I thought it was rather impressive, personally, because I'm a semi, paramilitary guy. I'm a cop. I'm coming from that, so I'm like, okay, I like that. But when you talk to me, gotta have your ducks in a row. You know, talking to a man who's got more years of experience in the faith than you've been alive. I know that's not the case for all Christian pastors, but the issue is they don't know their history, and black kids got to know black history. What hit me today, I was in school, and these little boys are running around acting up. They don't want to go to class, and I said to them, one of them's like, yo, I'm from Chicago. I'm from such and such in Chicago. The young man is of Nigerian descent, but he's in grade 6, and he's like trying to, evoke something that he's not. I'm like, why are you trying to pretend like you're from Chicago? You can't spell Chicago, first of all. You can't spell Chicago. And why are you trying to be from the I said this to him, why are you trying to be from the diaspora when you're from the continent? What does he mean? I said, now, hold on, young man, let me explain it to you. Why are you trying to be African American when you're just an African? And okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being African? Why are you trying to learn to be something else? Why do you want to be the children of slaves when your ancestors were African? Man, you couldn't get that. I said, hold on, sit down, all three of you, sit down. I said, I'm gonna tell you about two people. And I explained to them who Mansa Musa was. I explained to them who his brother was, Abu Bakr the First, how Abu Bakr circumnavigated the globe 400 years before Christopher Columbus. I said, so why would I want to learn about Christopher Columbus when I should be learning about Abu Bakr? Right? Why do I want to learn about who is sitting on the bench in LA when I want to play like LeBron? I don't want to copy my game against somebody else. Of course, they're too young to for that to digest. Right? They went off. They stopped fooling around at least. Went off on their way. That was shook my brain to talk about the Hebrew Israelite brothers that I met. They're from New Jersey. Drove out to Buffalo, and I felt that if you're going to challenge history, you got to know it. We know Caesar Borgia. We know the white pictures of Jesus. You go to any Roman Catholic, you say, who is this? Why you got white Jesus here? I know, Bishop. Yeah, they know. They know. The intelligent, the somewhat informed, not even deeply informed. They know. But you should not be teaching only the dummies. You need to teach the informed. The other day, after I spoke, the day after, we have a doctor of, she is also a doctor. She has a PhD with our seminary. And so she heard me speak, and she's like, "Oh, Bishop, I gotta get this Hebrew. I gotta get this Hebrew. You said too many things, and your preaching is different. You're preaching different than you preach." I said, "Yeah, man, this Hebrew's opened up my mind, baby. It's changed the way I think." She's like, "I gotta get that Hebrew." I called Dr. Israel, got her on the phone right there. We got a meeting tomorrow. You know what a fool is? A fool is somebody who has the access to information right there and says, "I don't want it. I'll keep what's in my brain." That's a fool. You got access to information. and we want to teach you properly. The Hebrew University is worldwide now. It's in Kenya. It's going to be in Rochester in a couple of days. It's in Canada. It's in Israel. It's in Georgia. It's in Florida. Listen to me. We're teaching the world Hebrew. As Dr. Israel says, we're building a new world. Do you understand me? You can't be running around here talking about, I'm an expert in African culture. What African language do you speak? I don't speak any African language. Shut up. You're not an expert in anything. You can't be reading an English Bible translated by the King of England talking about Christians didn't understand. You reading a book. You're reading a book translated by the same people you're criticizing. You're out of your mind. You're using a reference source from the same people you're criticizing. You got to go get your own reference source. It's like the scientists who came to Yahweh. They came to God. They said, God, we don't need you anymore. What? He said, I don't need you, God. We don't need you anymore, God. Why? We can clone our own sheep. You can. Yes, we can. We can clone our own sheep. We can make our own stuff. We don't require your services anymore. God, you're retired. And God says, show me how you can clone your own sheep. They said, no problem. It took God down here, brought him out. They said, okay, God, what we're going to do is we're going to get a pile of soil, some earth, and we're going to put it in. God said, wait a minute. That soil belongs to me. Get your own soil. Get your own soil. Don't use my stuff and tell me you don't need me. That's my soil. So you must have something else to use. Because this soil belongs to me. I made this. You can't take the source code from the same people you call the enemy and then tell me that you're teaching me right. That don't make no sense. Why, if the white man is so evil, why would he give you a Bible that's accurate? If the middle-aged white man is confusing us and teaching us the wrong way, why are you reading his Bible? You should be reading someone else's. Don't read his Bible. That's like me trying to say, yeah, you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult, and I pull out my New World Translation, which is the Jehovah's Witness Bible. Which is it? The Roman Catholics, you know, they don't know what they're a cult, and I go pull out the Roman Catholic Bible with the Apocrypha, and I open up the Book of Enoch. Come on, man. You got to pick a side, baby. So that's the problem. And in the conversation that I had with them, you know, they came off the airways, and I said, man, let's take it down. Let's take it down. You're going to have to go out now and figure out not just the Hebrew language, but the English language. Because to say that a proselyte, they're reading out of the book of Acts, read out of the book of Acts, and it said, Jews and proselytes. What is a proselyte, my brother? I said, what is a proselyte? I asked him. He asked me. I said, let me tell you, a proselyte is someone who converts to the Mosaic faith. Their mindset, oh, they were already Jewish before they converted. That doesn't make no doggone sense. So they are so desperate to disenfranchise non-black people from the Mosaic faith that they're changing the use of the English language too. They're doing what the Ashkenazi are doing with Hebrew. They're rejigging language. You can't do that. If your doctrine is wrong, fix your doctrine. Don't try to change language to match your stuff. You can't do that to yourself. Hebrew Israelites, they started out right. Now you got to finish it, right? You can't just go and say, I want to be a Hebrew. I want to return to Israel, and you can't speak the language. You've been there for how long and can't speak the... No. Sorry. You got to fix that. You got to fix that, right? Language is a hard thing sometimes for some people, but after a while, you're going to get it. You want to get somewhere, you're going to learn to speak. You're going to learn to ask somebody a question. You want to use the bathroom, you're going to learn how to say it. You know, you're going to learn. You're You're going to figure it out piece by piece. It might be harder for some, might be easier for some, but you're going to get it. Nobody told you got to speak. You got to speak like some eloquent orator, but you got to be able to talk. You got to be able to read. And you got to be able to teach other people what you're reading and what you're saying. You got to be able to write. So let's stop this right now. Let's slow this bus down. And let's load up the Hebrew University. Let's load it up with individuals who are Hebrew Israelites. And you guys need to learn the language. And when you learn the language, you're going to learn what parts of the book you don't understand. And you're going to understand how your faith is. I took them the scripture. I said, hey, the Bible says that there were strangers that came out of Egypt with the Israelites. They're like, oh, who are those strangers? I'm trying to tell you who those doggone strangers were, bro. They're saying, they were trying to say that the strangers, this is the craziest part about this whole thing. The strangers were clearly people who were not Afro-Shemitic people. They were probably Egyptians. We also know that there were other African nations that joined also. For example, Moses' wife, who's Ethiopian. These are the individuals God refers to as the strangers, Afro-Hamitic people. The point is that God has always had a principle that he has a desire for all nations. I couldn't even get them into this mindset, and this is what I'll leave you with. Who crossed over into the promised land? The circumcised or the uncircumcised? Don't play with your brain right here. Who crossed over into the promised land? The circumcised or the uncircumcised? The uncircumcised of those that left Israel crossed over into the promised land. And then, after they crossed over, then Yahweh told Yeshua, circumcise them again at the hill of their foreskins in Gilgal. I talked to the brother too. He thought Gilgal was referring to David. I was like, no, bro. That's another thing. That's crossed over into the promised land, setting a precedent forever. That God allowed the uncircumcised into the promised land before the circumcised to demonstrate that the uncircumcised in the Lord still have an investment in the promises of God. Oh, I can preach. Go preach that to somebody. Go read it for yourself. When they crossed over, the children were yet not circumcised, the males, and then God told them to circumcise after they crossed over. And the Bible says, and the manna ceased, and they ate of the fruit of the land. But that was after they were circumcised, after they crossed over. Because God has always had a plan. Yahweh has always had a plan for the uncircumcised to live in the promise. Don't play with me in this Bible. Love y'all, man. This is Del K. Brereton. This is the real spiel, the Shiloh Institute. You black kids, you gotta have black history. And that Bible is a black man's handy book. It's got history in it for days. Afro-Shemitic, Afro-Hamitic history. The Christian faith is about Afro-Hamitic and Afro-Shemitic history as well. It's powerful. It's powerful. When you think about the Western Church, it's only Rome. Who is the rest? The rest is Jerusalem. The rest is Antioch. The rest is Constantinople. The rest is Africa, which is referred to as Alexandria, but it's Africa. I gotta stop calling it them colonizer names. So, God bless you. Let me take a look at your comments, because I know y'all saying some funny stuff over here. Yo. Shalom, Zenobia, my sister. Baruch Hashem, Yahweh, my sister. Okay, Achot. Ma Shalom Ka, Achot, Zenobia. Todah. Shalom, shalom.